Time to predict the scores of week 23 of this 2022-2023 championship campaign. Last week, at long last, yours truly came away as the top scorer with 11.5 points, but just the one perfect score. Just 1 point behind me though was Swansea City 1, always on the trail of a bluebird though. But how that affects the overall scores now on the leaderboard, well, top there, GKK 474, still on 196.5 points, leading away. Congratulations there, Grant Kearns, all the way from the US of A, and Mark Chapman on 191.5 points. So, all to play for. 13 matches to predict this coming game week, which is of course game week 23, and we start off on Friday evening at 8 o'clock where Birmingham City come against Reading. Reading now back-to-back wins, a very good victory against Coventry last time out, and Birmingham City a 0-0 draw against Blackpool. So I believe that Blackburn on a Friday evening, probably going to be absolutely freezing there in the Midlands, are just going to come away with a 1-0 victory against the Royals. Moving on to Saturday at 3 o'clock, we've got Bristol City coming up against Stoke City. Stoke City coming from 1-0 down against Cardiff City, but it ended up 2-2 in the end, even though they did go 2-1 up in that match. Bristol City a fine win last time out against Rotherham, so tough one to call this one. I think it is going to be another tight one, but I believe the Robins are going to come away with all 3 points. I'm going to go for another home win and go for 2-1. Then we move on to Burnley coming up against Middlesbrough. Now Burnley 6 victories in their last 7 matches, an absolute thumping of QPR away from home last weekend. Middlesbrough 3 wins on the bounce themselves, a good 2-1 victory against the Hatters last time out, but I do fancy Burnley to take all 3 points in this one. I don't think they'll concede either, so I'm going to go for a straightforward 2-0 win to Burnley, although it may not be that straightforward at the end of the day. Then we move on to the Cardiff City Stadium, where myself and Nathan will be in attendance. Blackpool drawing last time out with Birmingham, which was probably a good point. And Cardiff City, they did take the lead in that draw against Stoke, went behind and then made it back to 2-2, and they could have won that match in the end with a little bit of better finishing, which has been the story of Cardiff City season thus far. But I fancy the Bluebirds at home, probably going to be another cold one there at the Cardiff City Stadium, and I fancy the Bluebirds to come away with a 3-1 victory. Then we move to Coventry, the Ricoh Arena, whether they'll be playing there or not. Coventry fans, let me know. Probably not. It'll probably be at Swansea. Well, it can't be at Swansea because Cardiff playing at home. Swansea losing last time out at home against Norwich, even though they did dominate large parts of that match, and Coventry of course losing against Reading, so a tough one to call this one. Don't think there'll be many goals in it, and I'm going to go for a 0-0 scoreline draw. Then we move on to Huddersfield against Watford. Now Watford back-to-back draws last weekend, 0-0 themselves. Huddersfield, I think they had a goal disallowed against Sheffield United, but ultimately lost that one 1-0, and I think they'll carve out a draw in this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 scoreline where the spoils will be shared. Then we've got Hull City coming up against Sunderland. Sunderland on the wrong end of a 2-1 loss against West Brom. I think they actually scored first in that match, the Black Cats. And the Tigers of Hull, a 0-0 draw against Watford. But I got a sneaky suspicion that Hull are going to win this one, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory. Then we go move on to Preston North End, who dispatched Blackburn away from home 4-1, and QPR now is 4 defeats on the bounce and 5 defeats in their last 6 matches. So you've got to go for Preston with this one, although knowing the championship will probably end up with a QPR victory, but I'm going to go for a straightforward 2-0 win to Preston. Then we move to West Brom against Rotherham. West Brom now 4 victories on the bounce, looking really good, and Rotherham now only 1 win in their last 7, so I think West Brom will win this one, and I'm actually going to go for a 3-0 victory for West Brom at the Hawthorns. Then we move on to Norwich against Blackburn, a very good win for Norwich away at Swansea, where they're under the cosh a little bit, as I've already said. And Blackburn Rovers a heavy defeat at home against Preston. So I think I'm going to go for Norwich, but I think it will only be a 1-0 victory. Defensively, they're going to have to Blackburn will have to shore up in this fixture. Then we move on to the Sunday fixture, which sees Luton Town coming up against Millwall. A bit of a grudge match, this one, over the years. A lot of history between the two clubs. Only 3 victories between them in the last 7 matches as well. Luton, 2 losses and a draw in their last 3 matches. And Millwall drawing against Wigan on the weekend, but Wigan got a new manager, of course. So real tough one to call. But I think I'm going to have to go for the draw in this one as well. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-1 scoreline. Then we move on to Monday evening, where Wigan Athletic take on Sheffield United. And you've got to go for Sheffield United in this one. Wigan, big strong team, but find themselves at the wrong end of the table. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory away for the Blades. And the final fixture of this game week actually takes place on Wednesday. I've already made my pick earlier in the season for this one when it was postponed, so I think I will keep to that scoreline, where the West Brom will beat Coventry 2-1 away from home. That's if it is in Coventry, as I say. Coventry fans let me know. So those are my predictions for week 23 of this 2022-2023 season. Make sure you leave your predictions over at the Superbru website. As always, I'll leave a link in the description and the code in there as well. Halfway through the season now. Things are, well, you couldn't really say they're hotting up in this British weather, can you? The World Cup is almost over. Final on Sunday, of course, and the third place playoffs on Saturday. But for now, enjoy your championship weekend. See you all in the next video.